Good evening, 6:30. I'm going to call to order meeting number 1860 of the East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. We are located at the John Daly Hall in the Town Hall as well as on the Zoom platform. We have a quorum. We have 4 regular members plus 1 alternate. So Frank, I'm going to ask for you to sit in on any discussions and voting this evening.
Yep.
Thank you. Do we have any added agenda items?
No.
There was a legal notice. The East Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Details regarding how to attend will be published on the commission's agenda and will be made available on the town's website. It's PZ 2023-24. The applicant owner is the East Windsor Historical Society Incorporated, is requesting a special use permit for the construction of a 32-foot by 112-foot tobacco barn to be used for demo of tobacco hanging and drying. It is on map 64, block 32, lot 28A, zone B1, A1, and A2. A full copy of the application is available on the Planning and Zoning Commission's webpage of the town's website. All interested persons may attend this meeting and provide verbal or written comments regarding this application. This was posted in the Journal Inquirer on September 29th, 2023, and on October 6th, 2023. To the public participation portion of our meeting. Is there anyone in the audience this evening that would like to speak on a topic that is not on tonight's agenda?
I'm not sure if it's on the agenda or not. It's listed under correspondence. Am I on the agenda or am I not?
Yes, then it is on the agenda,
So I'm not allowed to speak about it.
not at this point. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone online that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the approval of minutes. We have the minutes from our previous meeting, number 1859. Does anyone have any corrections, alterations, suggestions?
Very good.
Okay, if we do not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of regular meeting 1859 held Tuesday, September 26th, 2023. As presented.
There is a motion on the table to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stacy. Any further discussion?
I thought they were very well done. Congratulations, Peg, on a nice job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have 4 yeses and Jamie abstains. There's nothing under receipt of applications. No performance bonds. Moving on to our continued public hearing. PZ 2023-21, 225 South Main Street, a special use permit, construction of a self-storage facility of 57,960 square feet, and 10 buildings to be constructed in 5 phases. On map 22, block 23, lot 001-01, zone M1. The applicant is James Stanley.
Good evening. Tim Kuhn with J.R. Russo and Associates here tonight representing Jim Stanton. The project, again, the location's at 225 South Main Street. We're here to ask for site plan approval as well as a special permit for the proposed pavement. We did make our main presentation 2 weeks ago. There were a few outstanding items. We did make revisions to our site plans and submitted those. Which I believe addressed the majority of those items. I'd just like to touch base on what the plan revisions were. We did move demolition of the existing house to phase one. That was something that was requested at the last meeting. So that rather than waiting till phase 5 now, we will do that during phase 1. And I believe Ruth amended the conditions so that it would be prior to the certificate of compliance rather than the issuance of the zoning permit. That gives us more time for those people to find a place to stay. We also added perimeter plantings to the south property line, as well as a solid vinyl fence to the eastern property line for screening of the outdoor storage area. I added the porous pavement maintenance schedule to the plan, which is something that we went over at the last meeting. We changed the first 50 feet of the entrance to a standard bituminous pavement as opposed to the porous pavement. Your regulation requests 25 feet, so we actually went to 50 to get it past the radius. And then we also added the required statement regarding the possible requirement for bituminous concrete should the use change, which again was one of the comments that was in Dan's memo. I also did provide a separate specification for porous pavement, which was generated based on a draft, which was prepared by UConn in conjunction with the Connecticut DOT. As I mentioned at the last meeting, they don't actually have their own porous pavement specification at this time, but this was based on a draft they prepared. And I believe that leaves 2 outstanding issues. The first being whether or not to have dedicated parking. The initial plan, as you recall, we did not propose any dedicated parking. There is no requirement in the parking table for parking, dedicated parking for self-storage. And frankly, we don't see a need. There's people coming to this site, the way they utilize it, they pull up to their unit, they park in front of their unit, they get what they want, they drop off what they want, and then they leave. This particular facility is not going to have an office. It's going to be online rentals. There will be the opportunity, if they want to make an appointment, to come and visit a unit, but even then, they can pull up to the unit or pull up to an adjacent unit. Again, this is a low volume, low traffic facility. There should be ample spaces around the site so that dedicated parking, additional dedicated parking is not necessary. We did receive a memo that was prepared by the town engineer, and I'll read that to you. I'm sure you have it in the packet, but I'd like to read it anyway. It's an interoffice memorandum dated 9/29/2023 to Ruth Ann Calabrese, Director of Planning and Community Development and Town Planner, from Mr. Lenny Norton, regarding the parking and self-storage site. In response to your request, I have reviewed the email you dated 9/28/23 regarding the subject issue. As part of my review, I looked at the town's GIS for each of the existing facilities and whether or not they include an office. 23 South Main Street has 7 line parking spaces in front of their office located at the front of the site. 22 Wagner Lane has line spaces in front of the site by the office. 115 North Road has an office, but no line spaces. Looking at the GIS, there does not appear to be space for the 4 spaces noted in the email. It appears that a person working in the office parks in the front driveway when working. And then 10 Prospect Hill Terrace is an interior climate controlled storage facility. Parking spaces are required because the storage spaces are inside the building. The proposed storage facility is not proposed office space. My thought is that people visiting the facility are there to place something in a unit or retrieve something from the unit. There appears to be adequate parking space in front of the units for a vehicle to park while the person is accessing their unit. Aisle widths are 24 feet wide between buildings and 16 feet wide around the outside. The ADA requirement for parking space is 13 foot wide total. The 16-foot aisle exceeds this requirement, and the fact that all the units are at grade basically means that all units are technically handicap accessible. In my opinion, Designated parking spaces are not necessary for this type of facility. I feel that people will drive to their unit, do their business, and exit the facility. In Ruth's memo, she also notes that she did request an opinion from the building inspector, and he suggested 3 to 5 spaces. What he based that suggestion on, I don't know. There's no explanation provided, but based on all that information, the town staff is still recommending 3 spaces, 3 dedicated spaces in their memo. If that's the decision of the commission, we did revise the plan, if you may know, up in to show that we could fit the 3 dedicated spaces in the northeast corner. So that we don't get delayed anymore, we revised the plans to show them in the event that you guys required it. However, we strongly agree with the town engineer that additional parking is not required at this site. And if you come to that decision, then we would simply remove those 3 spaces from the final plan that's submitted. That's that issue, and then the final issue appears to be the building appearance. At the last minute, Ian questioned whether the building facade facing the street should be multicolored or multi-textured. There was some discussion as to what section of the regulations required this. And I believe Mike pointed out that it was section 903.f, which is an item, discusses items to be considered for approving site plans. The specific item is number 5. Its character and appearance, that the character and appearance of the proposed use, building, indoor, outdoor signs will be in general harmony with the character and appearance of the surrounding neighborhood and that of the town of East Windsor. And I questioned before, and I continue to question how that gets interpreted to mean that this industrial building needs to have a split face block on front of it. There is no design review in East Windsor, and I would like to point and just hand out again, this is the proposed building. The photos that we provided for our proposed building, and if you look at the 3 pages that follow, you will see the facilities at North Road, Wagon Lane, and the huge mark on South Main Street. And you would notice that they all are essentially metal buildings, similar to what we're proposing, with multi-color colors to break it up. So we do not, we would like and ask that this condition in there that currently calls for the split faced texture or facade be eliminated. And because we believe that our proposed building is in harmony with the surrounding area. We are in an industrial zone. And it's consistent with the other similar uses in town. That is all the additional information that I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I'm glad you have these pictures like this, because a lot of people, when they do these little half bay here, they put their motorcycles in there. And they come they take their car, they drop them off. So where are those people gonna park their car? If they're little half bays, they're usually for motorcycles or something like that.
They can park in front of somebody else's bay. They're there temporarily.
Well, if they take the bike out all day and they go, where they gotta park?
Oh, they're gonna take the bike out.
Motorcycles. A lot of people rent these out for motorcycles. So having 2 or 3 spots, I don't think would be a bad thing. Or they park on the grass or on the side, they don't park. They can't park in front of their bay, there's not enough room. The full size bay, yeah, I totally get that. They can park in front of their door on the full size bays,
Right.
but all these have half bays, all the ends usually.
Actually, ours won't.
Yeah.
I believe that was part of the discussion that we had last time. And you'll notice there's a note on the top of that
Okay,
that says the ends will not have bays.
it's not gonna be full size bays.
He actually, I don't believe he's decided on the actual size of the units at this point in time.
That's my only concern. A lot of people do that. They stick their motorcycles or whatever in there. And they take it out during the summer and they have to park their cars someplace.
Right. Well, if that was the case, they would be able to park in front of their unit. If there's no end units like that.
But it won't be a small bay though. These sidewalks sometimes are small bays too.
Again, I don't know what his minimum size. for the bay
That's
is.
my only concern is. Something like that.
I have a feeling he thinks.
I'm here.
Oh, there's Jim.
We have over an acre of parking. I don't anticipate it to be full. So if somebody has a motorcycle, we'll have to have a rule for that. They're gonna have to park away from the building. And we're gonna have a lot of extra parking there. So, on both sides of the 4 buildings, there'll be extra parking because I plan on graveling a little bit farther, away from the asphalt. So there could be parking along there also on the, where the green is, where the most of the green is. I'm gonna come a little bit towards Route 5 with more gravel. There'll be extra parking there. Because I don't wanna have to take that out later on.
Gonna change the plan that you presented us?
I don't think you can do that. We gotta keep it on. But there is the area for in the storage area.
Yeah.
Which there would be some area there for that crushed stone. For that type of parking.
So we can assume that if this goes through, it is gonna be as you doing it.
Yes.
I hope so.
Anything else?
That's it.
Do you have anything that, other questions?
I would like a little clarity on the Las Nollas property line, which I think is that the east?
Yes.
I think we talked about a vinyl fence along there.
Yes, which has been added to the plan.
It's on the plans, okay,
Yes,
I
yep.
don't see it, but that doesn't mean it's not here in this set that I'm looking at.
Yeah, there's 6-foot vinyl fence has been added. It's called out on the phase 1 drawing.
Tell me which.
One. It's right here, 188 feet, 6-foot high, solid vinyl.
Okay, because I was looking at the
Okay.
list, didn't see it. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Al?
No,
Stacy? You have anything?
I'm all set right now.
Thank you, Frank.
I guess the only thing I'd like to touch on just one more time is that the house is obviously located in the final phase zone.
It is
Right.
correct.
And that's part of why that is not the first phase.
Well, the original intent was to leave that house there until we got to the final phase, which would have been in this area. But now we've revised that so that the building's coming down during the first phase.
Okay, so at this point, we're approving the 5 phases without really knowing what the last line of facade will look like, other than that it should look like this.
Yes, that's what it's gonna look like. When we get to phase 5, off the side of all these buildings, we're gonna look at the side of all that. So that's what you're gonna be looking at.
And the ends of all that face the corner lot toward Abbey Road will just be a white stucco with a red
Yeah,
ridge
it'll just
line.
be the end without the doors, right?
The end without the doors.
The similar colors and yeah, they would just carry that. The texture above and the side doors all the way across.
So no matter what they decide to do for units, there will never be access on these shorter ends.
On the north side,
On the north side.
There will
facing
never be
Abbey
access.
Road.
facing Abbey Road. Is gonna be a blank wall. And I tried to buy it with stalls on it, so I may have to add those afterwards myself. You know, it's gonna look like a barn,
Like a decor, yeah, just the
you know, 'cause
facade.
that's my front yard. I don't consider Route 5 to be my front yard,
That's your advertising, yeah.
because I'm gonna be coming and going from Abbey Road.
The driveway's off of that.
So, the stockpile location.
Yep.
Right, that will be coming and going
Yeah,
until
that's,
final phase.
the stockpile is gonna be temporary during the phase, because it's gonna be, he's gonna be stripping topsoil and
And
then,
removed after every phase.
yes.
Those are all my questions.
I'll still give you my opinion on parking. What we talked about last time, even though, tenants will be parking in front of their units to remove and bring in items. I still feel that there's gonna be an opportunity where somebody will come there who is not a tenant, either gonna be an electrician, a utility man, a landscaper, or somebody, as you stated in your paving plan, somebody has to come and do an inspection on it too. I feel they need a dedicated place where they need to park because they're not part of that storage facility. They're there to perform work at the facility. That's my opinion. Anybody else have anything else? So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this application? Is there anyone online who'd like to comment on this application? Mike, do you have any outstanding concerns or questions that you addressed?
Nothing beyond what was covered.
Okay, thank you. So if everybody's satisfied with the information they need, we can close the public hearing.
Okay, I will make a motion to close the hearing on application PZ 2023-21 for a special use permit with site plan for construction of a self-storage facility in to be constructed over 5 phases.
There is a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Frank. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. The public hearing is closed. Okay, so were there terms and conditions that we need to look at or evaluate when we were talking about facade?
There is a number 4. The plan shall be revised to include the following. It says for each phase of the project, the building facade facing South Main Street.
That's on,
It's D,
D.
4D.
Does how's the commission feel on this facade? Having looked at the pictures of similar type units.
I'm okay with it, they're all like that. It's
I
difficult.
guess I feel like, it does have the multi-color, so you don't just get a
white wall.
white wall, because I think that would not be architecturally, nice to look at, and with the fencing. And hopefully landscaping on the front. I think it will be adequate.
Is everyone else in agreement?
I agree.
I'm okay.
So we would look to strike
As
4D.
presented.
And what are your thoughts on parking?
They need some parking.
I support the staff recommendation of the 3 spots.
And that's what's indicated on that, there's 3 spots. So that will stay. Okay. I think those were the only items that had any discussion. So. Is this all going to be under one motion for a special use permit and site plan approval?
Seems to be how it's
That's
drafted.
how I did it.
Okay.
Use the site plan.
Okay. So if nobody else has anything else they want to discuss, entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve application PZ 2023-21 for a special use permit with site plan for construction of a self-storage facility in 10 buildings to be constructed in 5 phases. Referencing the plans, self-storage facility 225 South Main Street, East Windsor, Connecticut. Owner applicant, East Windsor Investors, Inc., prepared by J.R. Russo Associates. Revised 10/3/23. The conditions applied will be, conditions 1 through 4, but not including 4D. That will be met prior to signing the Mylars as noted in the memo from Ruth Ann Calabrese dated 10/6/23. And conditions 5 through 7, which must be met prior to the issuance of any permits. Again, in Ruth Ann's memo, same memo. And conditions 8 through 11 that must be met prior to the issuance of the certificate of zoning compliance in the same memo. And lastly, general conditions 12 through 16 from the same memo.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the special use permit and site plan approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Frank? Any further discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we have a new public hearing. PZ 2023-24 for 115 Scanlon Road, a special use permit for construction of a 112-foot or 32-foot tobacco barn to be used for demo of tobacco hanging and drying. Located on map 64, block 32, lot 28A, zone B1, A1, A2. The applicant is the East Windsor Historical Society.
Good evening. Bayer Street, J.R. Russo and Associates, here representing the East Windsor Historical Society with regard to the application you have before you. This is an app for a multitude of things, I guess. Site plan approval, special permit, special use permit, and actually modification of the special use permit. Back in 2014, this commission approved the special use permit for the Historical Society for the property. At that point in time, for relocation of the Barber Hill School, and there were 2 other buildings they were looking at that point in time, and another tobacco shed at that point in time. The Barber Hill School, as I'm sure we all know, was moved from the other side of town and brought over.
Yeah, we gotta go.
In place. This proposal is for a 32 by 112 foot tobacco barn, and it's going to be moved from Phelps Road over to this site. It's shown here on the property. I've got it highlighted in brown. Scenic Road is here. Cemetery Road is over here. The church is right here just off the sheet, and this is essentially the triangular green area that's out there next to the property. This barn is located at roughly 113 feet off this corner, 134 feet off this corner from the property line along the southeasterly side. I do have some photos here, and I'll share these with you, of this particular barn. This barn was probably built in the late 30s, early 40s. One of the things that I learned a number of years ago when we had an application, actually before the Wetlands Commission, from Mr. Osborne. I see people laughing, maybe they already heard the story. I don't know.
That's all right.
Always laugh. That most of the tobacco barns in this area in East Windsor were all destroyed during a hurricane in '38. They were all blown down. A few survived, not too many. The ones that survived are the ones that were typically pegged, built with chestnut, the frames themselves, but there aren't too many. And then most of them were subsequently rebuilt shortly after that. This is one of those. So this one was built late 30s, early 40s. And what they're going to do is it's been donated to them. They're going to remove it from Phelps Road and bring it over here and reposition it and erect it for use by the society and demonstrations for hanging tobacco and drying tobacco. If you look at the second sheet on here, which I've also provided to you, and I apologize for the graininess because it's hard to get a good picture of this website, but this is a photograph, aerial photograph from 1934. And it shows the same area. We've got Cemetery Road, we've got Scannick Road, and we've got Scannick Church across the street. And you can see I'm showing a tobacco barn that was there on the farm back in 1934. In approximately the same location as we're showing this one, and that was kind of the intent with it, kind of trying to put it in the same location. So we've done that. I suspect that one's probably a little bigger than this one was, but and likely probably was destroyed again in the hurricane of '38. But there was a multitude of tobacco barns in this area. You just go a little bit off this photo. I think there were 5 or 6 barns on off to the west across the street, just to the south of this, and a little bit north and east of this. So there was a lot of tobacco in this area at that point in time. So this is fairly simple. It'll be put together as a typical tobacco shed. It's a pole barn. It's built on concrete piers. There'll be a little bit of gravel base underneath it, just to level the ground. It doesn't have a concrete floor. Simply a barn that a tractor can pull through, come out the other end. They are going to bring power over to it, so there'll be a little bit of lighting in there. Those of you who were lucky enough to work in tobacco as kids realize that it's kind of dark in there and the visibility isn't always that great, but there will be some lighting here and they are going to bring water over to it. If you take a look in the picture, there's going to be need for a little bit of repair, obviously, in some of the lumber, but most all of the original hardware is still here from back in the late 30s, early 40s. All the hinges are there on the sides. Some of the door hinges are still there hanging. The doors are gone, but the door hinges are still hanging there. So all of the original hardware again will be used and relocated to this site as it's put back together. So that's just a basic overview of the application. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, you want to start, Jim?
Yes, so in the application, they mentioned to demonstrate tobacco hanging and drying. What does that entail?
That would entail a harvest of tobacco, bringing it to this particular barn, hanging it and allowing it to dry, just as we all see every late summer, early fall here in East Windsor and Ellington and South Windsor and Suffield.
Will they be firing it?
I don't think so. I don't know that for sure, but I don't think
So the wording concerns me because
Excuse me, Mike, could I have them identify themselves? Who's speaking?
Jim, or what Frank was.
Yeah, Jay gave the presentation, Jim is asking the question, and then Frank added the question of, will they be firing the tobacco also?
So it says to demonstrate tobacco hanging and drying. So that to me falls under instructional facilities in the farm regs, which then you can apply for temporary seasonal events. Is that kind of the,
I don't know why we're even going down that.
I'm not asking the question, no.
As far as I know, that's obviously not the intention here. That has nothing to do with this building.
So the reason I asked that question is because usually when we get applications for tobacco barns, they just write straight tobacco barns. And that's it. I was wondering why the wording was worded like that, that's all.
Because it's the historical society and it's gonna be used for educational purposes. Demonstrations for, they have school kids that come here every year.
Also, hold on, let's back up. So they're gonna bring bus tours here or whatever, bring them
They
to the
already
barn?
do.
Okay,
It's been going on for years.
so they're bringing, so every tobacco barn I've ever worked in has never had water or lights. Ever. Everyone in town has had water or lights.
Okay.
So I was just asking the question, is the intent that they're gonna bring, they're gonna hang the barn, or they're gonna have a section of the barn just for like an area for the kids that come in to view? Cause
Yes.
usually the barn is full, it's truck full the whole way.
Yeah, no, I would say it probably wouldn't be. They'll have a section so kids can come in and look at it, explain to them how they do it, how it's hung. This is what it's for. And so it's for educational purposes, demonstrating.
Could that be shown on the plans anywhere? Or no,
As far as what?
as far as how far you plan to fill the barn? Or,
I wouldn't think so.
okay,
I guess, I don't mean to interpret what Jimmy's saying is. Are they gonna fill the barn and then just have kids look at it? Or are they just gonna put in a little section and say, here's how you hang it? You have spear lath, you have hook lath and all this kind of stuff. A small section. They're not gonna use the barn.
Are they gonna use it actually for
Yes.
filling the barn and hanging it so they could make money?
Yes.
No, I don't believe that's the intention. No.
so why do we need a barn 112 feet long?
Actually, it's a fairly small tobacco barn. At 112 feet.
So pretty good size. Just asking the questions.
It's fine, I understand.
That's all I have.
I guess just let me say it now, before we go around in a circle here. I don't think, as far as I know, okay? And I wish they were here, I don't know what happened, they had to leave. This is not disguised as anything, this is simply a tobacco barn for demonstrational purposes. For kids and anybody else that might want to learn. It's not gonna be an event center, we're not having weddings, we're not gonna have parties. And I'm not sure why we're even going down that road.
Well, then we're
Aiming for a certain thing, that's a certain thing, and that's what we're doing.
We're going down that road because it's demonstration tobacco hanging and drying. That's why we're going down that road.
Correct.
So in here, that's institutional facilities, instructional facilities. I mean, that can be used. Special use permit to go for temporary seasonal events. No, am I wrong?
If we were going to do something different than what is in our application for this building, we would have to come back to you and apply for that use.
Well, you could apply, if it's approved, you could apply through your temporary seasonal events application. That's just a form. Right? That's just a form you fill out and for you guys. It just looks to me like it's a backdoor way in.
Honestly, I take offense to that.
Okay. I'm gonna have questions.
Okay, if I
Yes.
respond. Anybody can come in for a temporary appointment. As this application was presented and what's being asked for is to expand the museum aspect of the village and add this component. Cultural heritage, this is how this was done. You know, that facility has already done temporary events with ice cream social.
Great, yeah.
Right, so.
That's all the questions I have for now.
Yeah, yeah, anything?
to move the barn in after it's taken down on Phelps Road? Will you be coming in off of Cemetery Road?
Yes, yeah.
That- And when you have, I'll say, educational demos, will it all be part of, I'll say, the little village? And people will walk over from the village, or will the school bus come in off of Cemetery Road?
My understanding is typically what happens when the kids come here, they get a tour of the whole facility.
So it will be part of the whole
Yes.
facilities.
Yes,
I know nothing about tobacco, so. I understand the concept of lights, because it's dark inside and you don't wanna not see the kids and you want the kids to be able to see. Can you explain why water? Fire hazard, or,
I can't. No,
Okay.
They're not here. I don't know the reason for the water.
I'm just, there was curiosity.
Yep.
You need
That
a
would be-
restroom for the kids, or,
That would be a question.
Or for
Why would
fire.
you fire they have water? Because if you have dry hanging tobacco in there, it can ignite very easily.
okay, and the
This is
whole
the time
barn.
of year when they take the tobacco down because it's so damp in the morning, you have tobacco damps, they call them, below the fire. But when, a month ago, it was just
Yep, both.
church the powder, you could.
Frank, they actually don't use water in the barns. They actually use propane to heat the barns to dry them up faster.
Well, we used to use charcoal. Now they use propane. Or
So they don't use
But
water.
But you're right, if there's kids in it and there was a fire, you need to.
So I'm glad they
Put it out.
included that, to be honest with you.
I was
That's
just-
one of my recommendations.
Okay, so then, I mean, is this designed for fire suppression?
No.
No, it's not. So that's not the intent of it,
No.
because it's gonna be, probably, I don't know if you got any dimensions, but it's probably gonna be a 1-inch line or something to that effect, right?
It's not gonna be big, no, yeah, 1 inch, inch and a half, but no, it's not for fire suppression.
Because that was one of my questions too, is what's the purpose of water? Because I worked tobacco as a kid too, and there was no water in any of the barns.
I can't answer that question in my. Representative Beverly, but all right, I guess.
I just get the feel that there's a feeling on the board in the room here that there's something trying to be pulled over our heads here. And I don't have that feeling. I'm sorry, but
I'm more curious the reason for the water. That's
Yeah, that was mine, it was
I just,
curiosity too, that,
because there's no sanitary, there's no, anything.
I'm sure that if they're too bad they're not here. I'm sure they'll have porta potties for, and I'm sure if they're having an event coming, let's say, third grade or the kindergartens from Broadway School or wherever they're coming, they'll have it ready. And I think it's a marvelous idea. I think it's a great idea. I was a tobacco farmer, I raised 125 acres of tobacco. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, kind of working off of what Ann had said, so is there gonna be a designated walk path or any kind of site improvements for how people are gonna walk from the village over to the barn?
There's a gravel driveway farm road that's already there, the building is gonna go right next to that.
So
And
they
But
get-
does that connect to the village?
It's all connected, yes, there's another gravel drive here, there's gravel around here, there's a drive here, so it's.
So
all
it's
connected.
it's kind of a walk here around these buildings in that way,
It's currently all connected, yeah, it's all walkable.
and approximately how long of a distance would that be? We're talking little school kids, that's, might be a bit of a walk.
Probably about 600 feet.
600 feet.
And I would assume it would be part of an event where they go through the whole barber shop and you will.
Yeah, they go through the whole.
I don't think they're
facility.
gonna have just, let's go look at the tobacco bar. I you guys are not their thing. Yeah, the emergency.
Those were my main concerns was access and the question of the water. Ruthann, do you have any questions or?
I don't,
So I have one more.
Yeah.
So on the motion to approve, it does not have the use of demonstration tobacco or handing or drawing on the motion. The reason for that? Or just,
No, when I wrote it, I just. Fuck from not heading of their memo.
so if that's approved for that, are they eligible to come in for a temporary seasonal event permit with that? Or that modification or that approval? Or that motion, I mean,
They're allowed regardless.
yeah.
Doesn't change.
That's what it.
Anyone else on the board have any further questions?
It just seems to me that if you're gonna have a demonstration of hanging tobacco, you're not gonna do it during the school year because they don't harvest during the school year. So that's kind of a little conundrum for me. And the drying, of course, is now, and they're harvesting it now. I think it's a great idea to have a tobacco shed or tobacco barn in the historical society. But I'd like to have more I'd like to have some details as to how it's gonna operate, when they're gonna have these events. They harvest tobacco on 64-day crop, and they're usually done, that's why we have an extended school year. By the time school starts, harvesting is all done. So you can't show them unless you have fake tobacco.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, so, yeah, Jay, so I mean, the Historic Society Village is open year round.
It is.
So is the barn gonna be open year round also? Or-
It could be, yes. Although, Frank has a point, and there was some discussion, and I don't know if this is still a plan, but they've been talking with one of the local growers about doing a small crop right here at the society. And maybe it would be planted with a different cycle, so maybe it would come ready to pick in September or late September or something of that nature. So that they could see how it's actually harvested and then how it's
Chopped down.
got exactly and brought to the barn.
I think it's such an excellent concept that the details, the devil's in the details here.
So unfortunately, our representatives from the society had to leave already. And obviously, this is not something that's urgent. You need every 2 weeks. So if there's some questions that you would like them to answer, extending this out to your next meeting, I don't think that's an issue.
Well, this is a public hearing, so is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment on this application?
Yeah, Marie D'Souza, I'm Rice Road Treasurer. I want to say, I think this is excellent for the purpose of the Historical Society. And I would just hope that anybody up there that's going to be making a vote on what's going to be done and not going to be done based on the merit of what's being presented and not what may be in the back of your mind, and trying to second guess. Because anybody could put up a building today for one purpose and they could ask for a change later on. So as he took offense to your comment, I take offense to the look on your face and the irritant that you're displaying for no reason at all. And you may have a reason, but got to kind of hide that. But the merits of this, as a scout leader for a lot of years, over the last 40 years that I've been in town, I have taken my troops when I was a leader there and walk around, and the little kids didn't have any problem. They walked 2-3 miles at Northwest Park. But it's something locally we can do with the kids, because everything you do with Girl Scouts, a lot of times you have to go out of town to do something. This gives one more added feature for the Historical Society to have to those groups moving forward. And it's history of the town. At least this building is not being destroyed. If we go back to years and years of Historical Society prior to, and some of the historical people in town always look to have barns held and restored in town for future. So I think it's a great idea. So I hope you take it for the consideration of what's being done and not what you think might be done down the road, because that can be dealt with down the road. Thank you.
My name is Gail Guaver. I live at 117 Scantic Road. I do have a statement I want to read, but I did want to hand it out to you.
Thank you.
I read it, I type it up so I can stay focused. get whatever I say out and ramble. And there's a couple other pages that are just for your information.
Yeah, we might have them for the file.
Oh, sorry. My name is Gail Boisvert, my husband Lester, and I lived at 117 Scantic Road since 1976. It seems like we're here again to comment on an application that has to do with our neighbors at 115 Scantic Road. As in the past, our key concern is to ensure that any permit submitted and approved does not have any commercial intent, either now or in the future, and it aligns with the P O C D. First, let me say that I'm a big historical buff. I belong to Williamsburg, I belong to Sturbridge Village, I belong to Old Deerfield, I'm members of all those societies. So I'm a big fan of preserving. My house is historic. So I just want to put that out there. I have a number of things, though, that I want to point out in regard to this latest special use permit or addendum that's been submitted. In June, and I've attached the documents because I didn't know if you were aware of that, a building permit, not a special use permit, for this tobacco barn raising, I'll call it, was submitted that included a very primitive hand-drawn architecture plan. There was no mention of water or electricity at that time, and I've included those copies because I don't even know if that made it to you. Now, instead of the building permit, we have a modification of a special use permit. And while I applaud the town officials for not accepting the original building permit and requiring a lot more information and documentation, I question why it is a different individual submitting the application and why it now indicates there be water and electricity hookups. Those are points you've already mentioned. The special use permit states this is for a barn to be used to demonstrate tobacco hanging and drying. And you've already brought up a couple good key points. Again, why do they need electricity and water? Why is it so far away from the rest of the village that people would have to walk that distance? If it's just going to be used for that demonstration, why wouldn't it be closer, placed closer? And why has the president of the society just recently told people that they were going to rent it out to a farmer? I also question who gave the person submitting the application authority to do so. The East Windsor Historical Society is a 501c3 organization with bylaws that require meetings to be held several times a year. This organization has had no meetings of the membership since 2021. I know this isn't under your purview, but I thought it would be interesting information to have. General members have not been formally informed of this submission or approved it. I also just want to make a couple comments regarding school kids coming. I live next door to the society. I don't think kids have come from school in quite some time. I'm talking several years. Forget the pandemic. Several years back, all educational programs stopped happening at the East Windsor Historical Society. They used to have things that in the evening, they would have speakers come in. They no longer do that. I questioned as to why they didn't do that anymore. I was told that the person now in charge of that is just really focused on cataloging, I should say, artifacts from the town, and that there are really no educational programs going on there. If I am wrong, then prove me wrong and find them. But if you go on their site, there's nothing advertised. And like I said, I live next door. They're open 9 to 12, 3 hours. And I can tell you the only people that usually come 9 to 12 are the 3 to 4 cars that show up. I guess they're cataloging items. So I just wanted to put that out there because there was a lot of talk about all these kids, school kids showing up. And I haven't seen buses there in quite a long time. Basically, in conclusion, after what has gone on in the past, with this property and what we went through. Our biggest concern is that once this barn is in place, what will stop the small handful of people from showing up with another modification to the special use permit to continue down the commercial path they've tried in the past? So those are my comments, and I thank you for listening to them that are respectfully submitted. And I also want to thank you all for the service that you give to the town, because after being at a number of these hearings and listening to other things that people come through, I know it's a tough job. So thank you very much.
Anyone else?
The only thing I can say is I've been there 15
You have
years.
to identify yourself.
Richard B. Van, 121, Scantic Road. I've been there for 15 years. I've never seen a school bus pull in front of the historic society. So I just want to tell you, the place looks deserted. I'm just saying that. So I don't know where they're coming in with school kids. So that's up to you guys.
Yes, sir.
Tom Talamini, 23 Rice Road. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I've been to Northwest Park. They have the Tobacco Museum. It's open basically the same time. They have the same hours as the Historical Society. That has always got people in and out of it. It's a great, it shows you the equipment. Maybe they're not gonna have all the tobacco hanging. Maybe they'll have a spot for the equipment. I don't know. But it just shows you the equipment, the stuff that's used and the spearing stuff. And I think it's a great idea to have, to keep the history in town.
Anyone else? We have anyone left online? Then our recording secretary. Okay. Jay, I guess the way I look at it is there's some questions that have been presented that I guess you cannot answer.
I don't know
At
all
this
the
point.
answers, and like I said, there's no sense of urgency here to get this done, so we can come back at your next meeting, and I'm sure John can answer any of the questions that you might have.
Okay. So I guess with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, to continue the public hearing on application PZ 2023-24 for a special use permit modification with site plan. Modification of the existing special use permit to allow construction of a tobacco barn at the Historical Society until our next regular meeting.
There is a motion to continue on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we have no old business or new business. We're going on to other business, the approval of the 2024 meeting schedule. We have a calendar in our packets, to cover the planning and zoning commission schedule, as well as the aquifer protection agenda schedule. Because I went through the dates, I did not see any conflicts with any kind of holidays or things like that. Does anybody else see any conflicts or issues with any of the dates laid out?
So we used to take the month of August off, we used to. Last time, meeting we had August, we canceled.
Right, and that's what we did with last year's calendar.
Yeah.
We left it on the schedule, and then if there were no applications, then we,
We figured better
Canceled it?
just to leave it.
yeah, so that last year we did the exact same thing. The only thing we
Yeah.
made a modification was the Christmas one that we didn't eliminate that one.
That was Joe, that's it.
That's pretty great, that's, I've got everyone going back to
Yeah,
15,
and August is off every month,
16,
right? August is off.
so.
I think it makes sense to leave the 2 August dates and cancel hopefully one of them.
If there's no
I think
application.
press-
Okay. No.
Can we approve both Aquifer Protection Agency and Planning and Zoning in one motion, or is Aquifer Protection another legal entity and we have to approve its calendar and Aquifer Protection?
We created the calendar. Here, if you'd like to wait for the next meeting.
I'm just
Yeah,
asking if that is.
it's probably cleaner to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's my feeling.
October 22nd. That's
At our next-
next year.
yeah, at our
This year. Tell you when our next. application.
It just seems like, you open the meeting as whatever you are at your wearing, so maybe wearing. Perhaps we should do that one separately.
Don't have that, the. Have a separate one for October.
Yeah, it is separate.
It is separate, yes, it is.
So it would be, like what,
October 24th. Okay,
October 24th.
okay, so we'll vote on that one during our October protection meeting. If everyone's in agreement, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule for the Planning and Zoning Commission as presented by staff.
There's a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very Frank. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. 24 meeting schedule is set. Yeah. Under correspondence. In your packet, you received a letter. On the construction issues going on at 24 Reservoir Avenue. You all had an opportunity to review it. And Ruth Ann and Danielle have made a couple of site visits out there.
Yeah.
And have addressed the items brought to their attention. And will continue to do so until they see fit that everything is as it should be. Does anybody have any questions of Ruth Ann on this at all?
My question is, has the appropriate authorities been and addressed these issues?
As in,
I've misplaced a letter saying that it has happened, but I assume that it has happened.
there are a number of items that were brought up that have been addressed, such as the construction of snow fence around the property. There was a pile that had been since depleted that was supposed to be temporary in nature. It's gone now. It should have had some sort of silt fence paid around it. So, I mean, they're buttoning up. They wanna finish up out there. When we get those really heavy rains, there were issues with the sedimentation erosion control that needed to be shored out because the volume of water was enormous, not unlike other construction sites in town. So,
I mean, a lot of them flooded, Wells Road flooded. The port, and they did construction down there, right through the erosion control.
yeah, West River Farms is up there too. So we're working with them to shore up the plan. Okay.
So
I have a probably a obvious question that can be answered, but I don't see the answer. Mr. Sepatelli, is he concerned about the way we are proceeding and the violations we might have occurred or are presently going through? What is his real complaint?
Well, as I see it, there have been issues with erosion and sedimentation control, questions about the adequacy of such. Adherence to the site plan. And excavation. Regrading activities. And feeling that, an interpretation that that's a special use permit for excavation and grading where I interpret the approval for the earthwork to be incorporated in the site plan that was approved.
That's how it usually is.
So. If I might make a conclusion, and the conclusion is that Mr. Sepatelli is concerned about the park. More so than anything personally he has or owns.
The park and then. His assessment of the town's work and enforcement of the rules.
I've read all this information, there's a lot of it. And I have looked at some of the regulations. I guess I have a different interpretation as what he has. Have you conferred with him? Obviously, know what the replies are. Have you done any conversation with him? Other than what's written here?
It's all been in writing.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have nothing under a business meeting or need for executive session. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion on the table to adjourn. Do we have a second? Stacy? Any further discussions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous, we are adjourned at 7:38. That's fine.
That is true.